footsteps of my King.
Everyone, welcome to this episode of Idleman Unplugged. I've got an important topic this morning. We are talking about 7 huge health tip issues. Actually, I should call it 7 huge health tips keeping resolutions. And I wrote down some things that will be really helpful as we go into the New Year's. As you know, New Year's resolutions are huge, especially during this time of year. And most New Year's resolutions don't go very far, maybe a week or two, sometimes maybe a day or two. So I want to give you some tips that will help you. And of course, there's a lot of division out there on what diet is best, what lifestyle is best. I know they say, eat a little bit before you work out and then just keep a low heart rate, when others will say work out hard, high intensity interval training. There's truths to all of that. So, but for the average person who can't go jump in a cold lake every morning and sit underneath an infrared bed every afternoon and then go run on the beach for an hour and a half and stay grounded to the earth, and then also do all these kind of things that, are kind of cool and fun if you have time and money. But for the average person, what is the average person to do? Well, let's look at 7 huge health tips, 7 huge health tips to keep New Year's resolutions. Number one, this is huge. If you want to make some changes in your lifestyle, then you have to do something that we call out of sight, out of mind. So the foods you want to avoid, don't have them in your house. Don't have them in your pantry. The pull is too strong. And so what you start to do is you start to add in, let's say cut up apples with some healthy peanut butter versus your kids having those little fishy crackers. Maybe carrots dipped in some healthy salad dressing. You got to be careful with salad dressings as well. Mainly, those with seed oils, canola oil, safflower oil. You can do some research on seed oils. They're not good for you because the process of getting that oil is really what is bad on the body, not to mention the ratio of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids and how that is really skewed. But like Primal Kitchen and things that are made with avocado oil, and you dip carrots and cucumbers, and you have some potatoes or, things like that that are healthy and good and God-given. And you have those in the pantry, those in the refrigerator, instead of the bad trigger foods. That's what I mean by out of sight, out of mind. What about carbohydrates? What about this? I've done other podcasts on that. And it's so tough because you'd really have to sit down with the person and talk about what their needs. Somebody who's 25 and is athletic, what they're trying to accomplish, versus someone who's 45, might have insulin resistance. What are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? What is their weight and their body mass index? But for a lot of us, I think cutting out a lot of carbohydrates is a very good idea, especially because a lot of those carbohydrates are processed. And how it affects the blood sugar level. It's just amazing, how the body still functions even when taking in food that is not good and God-given. And so what I would do if I were you, I would try to avoid a lot of the carbohydrates out there, crackers and cookies and chips and, rice and pasta and bread, of course. But from time to time, I'll have some Ezekiel bread with maybe some MCT oil on it or butter. And see, my body, here's my point. Finally took me 5 minutes to get to it, but your body will begin to crave these things. I can tell you, as God is my witness, even right now, it's lunchtime. I would much rather go home and a huge colorful salad, some chicken breast with some, lemon pepper on it, avocado. That sounds better to me than In-N-Out Burger. And I'm here in Southern California. Chick-fil-A just opened a Lancaster location as well. And that's, pretty good food, but a lot of it is salty to me. And so there's hope out there is my point. You can change your taste buds. You can change what the body desires, but it takes a little bit of time. So let's look at number 2. Oh, I wish I could show you an illustration on this way, but I just wrote down, have things that are prepared in the refrigerator. Have things that are prepared in the refrigerator. And what I mean by that is, my daughter is really good at this. My older daughter is, we'll have tons of cut up, you name it, bell peppers, cucumbers, whatever is going on your salad. And you already have these mason jars in your refrigerator that are already pre-made. So it might take a good, 30 minutes to make these, but then at lunch today, you just go home, you pour out the salad. There it is. You get some cut up chicken or some tuna. Maybe if you do plant-based, then you do some black beans and then mix some healthy salad dressing and add some avocado and maybe some nuts. And you're right there, 500-600 calories, very satisfying. And see, that's the thing is, if you're feeding the body what it needs, you're not going to be as hungry. But if you're having sugar and the carbs, and it keeps that sugar high, that blood sugar levels high. And also your cravings are higher. And that's why you eat more. And that's why we're gaining weight. And the key also is to be more active. So park farther away, begin to bring exercise into your daily life. There's just no way around it. We are designed to move a lot more. And I don't move enough. And to just get up and walk out in the desert or go on walks or stay active or a stationary bike. And we've got to be moving more. And then as you're moving more, that momentum makes you feel a lot better. So that's really the key. Also, number 3 here. Number 3. Oh, back to number 2, you can have prepared in a lot of different ways. You can have, black beans prepared. I let them soak overnight and then prepare them the next day. They last about 3 days. So, being prepared is key. You don't want to just wing it. That's why we go to fast food, because we're not prepared. So number 3, perseverance. Change takes time. Here's what people need to realize. Change takes time. So what is happening with weight loss and health and fitness? It is actually happening at the cellular level, what they study with microbiology. And at the cellular level, the mitochondria, how you produce ATP, something phosphate or whatever those big words are. The bottom line is that's what's producing energy. Your mitochondria, the ATP, the cellular health, the vitamins, the minerals. And so all this change takes place in a very, controlled environment. And there's small changes. The fat cells, whether they're decreasing, and that's the big push now with peptides like 5-amino-1-MQ or tesamorelin, ipamorelin, CJC something 1295. And that's these peptides actually send a signal to the cells to increase the workload on what they're doing in regard to burning fat and things like that. But again, that's a whole nother podcast. The whole point of this is it takes time. So if you're losing a pound of fat, 3,500 calories, that's going to take some time. It could take a good week, but remember, it came on slowly. It's going to go off slowly. So little changes really add up. This little change here, a week from now, I'm going to start to feel better. I know it's going to take a while to get off this caffeine, this sugar. So by next month, and even if you don't hit your goals, you're still doing a lot of internal cleansing and you're still moving forward. And so we want to see, this perfect physique right off the bat, even though that should be our goal. We want to feel great, man. I want to, I got off coffee, I got off sugar. I want to feel great. And we're not feeling great. Actually, you feel worse. And so for a while, so it's perseverance. It's moving forward. And that really is one of the keys as well. And then the next point here, let's see, what would that be? Number 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4, I put down here fasting. Boy, we could talk a lot about fasting. I've written books on fasting. You can download those. But the bottom line is it's important to incorporate some type of fasting into your lifestyle. I don't think it's a fad at all because number 1, it's how we were designed. We were not designed to eat every 3 hours and stop at this AM, PM, stop at this place, have a full pantry. We were actually designed many times to eat a meal, maybe a big meal and go a couple days, or eat maybe 2 meals that day and then forage for food. And that's how God designed us. And so fasting is biblical. It is healthy and it's good for the body. But also another thing about it is for example, if I don't eat until later in the day, till after lunch, I'm not tired at lunchtime. I don't feel like I have to take a nap. I'm lethargic because what happens when you eat, there's the insulin levels the insulin is increasing. It's a response. Actually, the blood sugar is increasing, and then the insulin is responding. And the more your body does that, it's, the insulin is a fat storage hormone, where glucagon is the opposite. It's more of a fat burning hormone. Not exactly, but let's just leave it there for now. But so that's raised up, blood sugar is raised up, and then when something's raised up, you have a crash. And you fall and you crash and you crash and you crash and you crash. So fasting, whether it's intermittent fasting, I like to do intermittent fasting where just wait till after lunch and eat, and then have a window of eating. And that's good for me. Some days just water fasting. Some of you might incorporate some juice fasting. You just got to be careful with juice because there's a lot of sugar in juice. I don't think we're created to eat, drink the juice of 6 apples and a whole watermelon all in one day, because that's a high level of fructose. So, you got to be careful with juicing. But I would add fasting for sure. So the next point here on getting back on track, staying on track, is avoiding processed foods and sugar and seed oil. So if you want to break it down into, okay, Shane, I got to keep it simple. Okay, well, if it's in a bag, box, and it has a lot of ingredients, many that you don't understand. Real bread. I just had some real bread. My daughter made it. It's just some whole wheat flour and some salt, maybe some yeast and some water. Very good, very healthy. Put some Manuka honey on it and maybe some grass-fed butter. And it was very good. But you look at most bread and it's just refined. So everything good is taken out. And then you'll see things put back in. Folic acid is put back in. And then let's say fortified with vitamin this, and this. And they really have to put this stuff back in. It's not good when it's put in then synthetically. Sorry about that. It's not that great when it's synthetic. It's put back in. Folic acid. Do some research on folic acid. Follow Gary Brecka. Gary's a friend of mine. A lot of good information on folic acid and seed oils. So the bottom line with seed oils is canola, safflower, sunflower. There's some others that I'm not remembering right now, but it's been a couple years since I studied it. But what they would do is they have to use solvents, to get rid chemicals, to get rid of the smell and to change the coloring. And by the time these seed oils are processed and put in our food, they're not good for the body. That's why they call them carcinogen. I knew this was going to be a hard podcast with some of these words. Carcinogens. There we go. If I just say it slow, carcinogens, and which is cancer causing. And these things are destructive. They're hard on the body. So the best type of oils are natural, avocado oil, obviously, coconut oil, MCT oils are good. And, of course, olive oil. Try to get organic, cold pressed. So it's not heated. So if I'm avoiding processed foods, now there's some processed foods, like I like Ezekiel cereal. There are some, protein powders. There are some things in packages, of course, but, look at the ingredients. Is it natural? Is it whole? Is it life-giving? Is this food life-giving or life-taking away? Am I feeding health, or am I feeding addiction and disease? And as you begin to get rid of those processed foods, it's not that hard to feel better. And then sugar, I try to get, if there's anything over 4 grams of sugar in a serving, that's a teaspoon of sugar, 4 grams. And so like a lot of the jelly I'll buy, try to find it on sale. It's just strawberries. It's just blueberries. It's just raspberries. It's not 4 grams of sugar added into every serving. It's just the fruit. Can we just have the fruit, people, please? Man, it just drives me nuts. So seed oils, they'll feel a lot better. It'll average out your omega-3, omega-6 average or balance. And I don't want to get into the details, but you can do some research on that. Avoiding the seed oils, the processed foods, the sugar, and just eating whole life-giving food, knowing it's going to take time. Keep falling forward. Don't do things perfectly. Persevere, and have things prepared in the refrigerator, out of sight, out of mind. Just have things that are good and God-given in the home. And of course, sometimes we call treats, or they'll pick up some fairly healthy ice cream, or our family will maybe bake some cookies or things like that. So of course there's room for that. And I love it because I feel so much better. See, that's the thing. It's not about, people tease the way I eat. Like, hey, I feel so much better. Have a pastor, tell a pastor to try to get 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night for a while, eat junk food. And you tell me how you feel when you're preparing God's word and preaching, and how much more as Christians we can feel a lot better if we take care of this wonderful gift that God has given us. But I understand how hard it is. Some things are very, very, very addictive. So anyway, I hope that helps. There are different views out there. You listen to, this view on the plant-based only diet, this view on carnivore diet, this view, and I've done podcasts on that, so I don't want to take up a lot of time, but the bottom line is, are you eating life-giving, good, God-given food? So I love beans, black beans. I love sweet potatoes, right? But in moderation, especially if I want to keep my insulin level down, I want to lose some weight. So a lot of us do need to avoid carbohydrates. To what extent though? I mean, if you just have a sweet potato throughout the day, and maybe some things I just mentioned, some naturally made bread or things like that, and you do everything else I said or mentioned, you should be able to see some pretty good results. But definitely, the ketogenic diet is popular because it removes carbohydrates. Your body burns the carbohydrates that are stored in your muscle and your liver. Not all of them, but because there's no stored glycogen, glucose, carbohydrates, and then you're not eating them, you are then in ketosis, where your fat is being converted and used as fuel. However, I think if you eat too many calories, me personally, even nuts, avocado, oil, they will be stored. If the energy that is consumed is not used, it will be stored. There's no evaporation process that takes place. So that's, I think, one misconception sometimes people think about keto diets is, I can just eat whatever I want. As long as it's, fat, more fat, some protein, but that's not necessarily true. Not only that, there's digestive issues with the enough fiber content. Fiber is so important. But then you do have people who have had some huge benefits on carnivore diets. I know I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about it before, and his daughter. And hey, if it works for you, and the reason it works is you're eliminating all the foods, processed foods. So if you get rid of all the processed foods and you eat just clean meat, you're probably going to feel better. And there are some benefits to that. But I think in the long run, that's a really, really challenging way to go. So anyway, I hope this episode of Idleman Unplugged was helpful. As always, you can email us your questions. Thank you.